That's why I'm like, yeah. No, no, there's a redhead. And I know he is. That's awesome. That's hilarious.
All right, so hi everyone. It's been a while since I've been here. Um, so first topic on the agenda is asking about the status of the phys ed requirement pertaining to students that do athletics. Um, I think I remember reviewing the minutes of a curriculum subcommittee meeting, and I completely forgot what was on there until today. So I was just wondering what the status of that was. Is there like any good progress, bad progress? I think I remember reading something about state requirements not necessarily allowing it. And yeah.
Perhaps Ms. Desmond could fill us in.
Yes, so we're actually doing a full school redesign presentation next month, and Dr. Rothschild and a team at the high school have been investigating lots of different requirements for our students, like the Common Core requirements, and then also sort of what is happening in area communities as well. As an initial sort of look with the Department of Ed, it does not seem as if it will be feasible to count athletics towards the phys ed requirement, but we are still investigating that. So it is in the works, but if you go to the Department of Ed website, it seems very clear that that does not count as a phys ed requirement.
Perhaps you could clarify how some of the programs, such as ROTC and dance, are able to waive the PE requirement. How are they able to do it?
So it's not a waiving of the requirement. It is the PE standards are integrated into the course. And so they've been accepted by our school committee for a long time. Our school committee made that decision to accept those standards being integrated into that course, those courses. There's several courses, actually. There's dance, there's band, and I believe ROTC. And it's the physical, like ROTC does all kinds of drills and things like that. So those things have been broken down as to how they meet the physical education standards. And then it was approved. It was presented to school committee. That's before my time. And it was approved in that way. But as far as we have been able to uncover, athletics does not, being a member of an athletic team does not waive the phys ed requirement at this point, but we're still investigating.
Yeah. So like, is the policy around it, is it like explicitly stating that athletics can't substitute, or is it more like athletics doesn't necessarily fill the requirement of the gym requirement?
So what we've seen is that the Department of Ed does not accept it as a phys ed course. So, but again, we're looking at all possibilities at this point. We want to make sure we're really clear about it before we bring it forward to our school committee.
All right. Next motion on the agenda, and thank you for the answers to my questions, and thank you for that great question as well. Next thing is there any way we can get the water bottles back? Not sure due to COVID, but due to heat issues in the school. This motion was introduced by Tricia, I think. So if you'd like to speak on that, go ahead.
So I do think we should bring the water bottles back. Maybe not for the entire year, if that seemed to be a problem before, but at least like the beginning of the school years and the end of the school years, just because it does get really hot in the buildings. And I know you can argue like kids can just bring in their own water bottles, but like for instances where they do run out of their water and they need an extra one, it could be there when it gets hot. And some people like don't like to use the water bubblers still, so I feel like being able to have the option of having the water bottles there would be a good thing, especially when it does get hotter.
That's actually a good question. We can follow up and see if we can get approval from the school committee to fund it. We would have to fund it. So I'll look into that, and I don't know what the method of getting back to you is with that. But I do want to say, in this, you may not get to enjoy this being that you're a senior and going off to college, right? but we are working to put water filtration systems in all of the schools so that people don't have to feel uncomfortable with the bubblers. We have a young man from down south here, so he may not know what a bubbler is. Do you know what a bubbler is? Yes, it's the water fountain system. So, so the bubblers they're not going to be replaced. They're not going to be replaced with another bubbler. We're going to have the water filtration that they can actually water filling stations. Yeah, so hand-free water filling stations. So that will alleviate the concern for the students. But I do think that what you're asking for is an immediate solution during this hot time of the year. So I'll bring that up. I'll make sure that we follow up with that.
I know that we had invested in the water filtration systems because we felt it was more environmentally friendly than all those plastic water bottles. But I wasn't aware that we went to nothing. So we haven't had anything while we're waiting for the filtration systems to get installed. Is that correct?
I wasn't aware of that either. So
Like 6 weeks ago, guys?
So you ran out of water 6 weeks ago, just when the temps started to...
right, and I was never part of this. This is why I said I'll look into it, but I wasn't aware. I don't know who would make that decision, when it happened, or whether or not it's still in the schools and just not being, I don't know what happened, so I'll have to look into why it stopped.
So I don't know if they like took it away and like hid it, but I do think that they just had the ones that they had left. They were like, you guys can take this last few batch and then we're done. And then also, some kids were coming up to me and were like, oh, like, I wish the water bottles were still here. Like, why'd we have to get rid of them and things like that. So I just figured it'd be a good thing to bring up.
I actually, I'm glad you brought this forward. I was in the high school yesterday, and it was a cool day out and hot in the high school. So, which was actually really shocking to me how warm it was in that room that we were in. So I absolutely want to make sure you are as comfortable as possible, and I'm sure my colleagues agree, and we'll figure something out to make sure you're good.
Thank you.
You want to ask a question? Yeah. Yeah, it's hotter in the 1920 building, is that what you're saying? Oh, the 80 building.
I can actually back that up. Yesterday, or the day before, I was in anatomy with Mr. Spencer. He has no windows in his room, and we all literally looked like we were on. Actually, one of my friends told me she felt like she was on the verge of passing out.
That's interior, third floor.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if we knew kind of why they were taken away or why they stopped the distribution of water bottles. Was it like a budget thing or?
I actually don't know the answer to that, and I'm going to, we will find out what happened, how it was voted, was it voted to discontinue or decided on, but I don't know why, and I wasn't even aware of it. I do know that it's not something we typically provide for students, but that is, we started to provide it during the COVID years because of the fact that you could not use the water filter, the bubblers. So if you're not, let me just get this straight, you don't have access to bubblers still right now.
No, you can use bubblers.
Oh, they can, but there's still children that feel uncomfortable with it. Okay, all right. So I don't know, like I said, I don't have the answer, but I'm sure we'll get the answer when different parts of our team arrive tonight. So what is the stand, do we follow up with these things by sending? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'll be able to follow up. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, because the one in the gym, that's the only one that's one of those like filtered ones, the hand-free ones.
Wow, okay.
So may I ask, like, these days when you guys thirsty, what do you do? When you get thirsty?
Deal with it. Or ask my friends if they have water. Most cases, if I'm like really desperate, then I'll probably take a sip out the bubbler.
Well, Patricia, I just want to say that is a good motion. I think we should have it for you guys, personally. Thanks.
I think that's something we should look into right away. I mean, it's just going to keep getting hotter right now. And I'm assuming there is going to be summer school for the high school students. I wanted to go back to the point about the interior room on the third floor. I wonder if it's possible to get fans in those spaces. I don't see how you can have a class in a third room interior without a window and not get any ventilation. It just, how can you teach and how can you learn in that situation? Are there fans available, or would we have to purchase fans? So teachers are bringing in their own fans.
I guess my additional concern for that is COVID is rising. And so that is really concerning for me if there's no ventilation and people are in rooms where there's no moving air. That's really concerning. So I know that we're going to get to the bottom of why that is, why it is that way.
And I think the first step with that would be determining how many of these rooms we have. And I understand that you've got a full high school, everybody's got classes going on all day. Are they prioritizing to not schedule classes in the rooms that don't have windows? I know when we did have a portion of the students come back, we did that. We said we're only going to use classrooms that have operable windows, at least one. And I realize now we're full, everybody's back in right now. But I guess we need to really look at what are the space constraints that we're dealing with? How many rooms do not have windows on the third floor or the second floor? I think as you go up, it gets hotter, obviously. And we know we have kids at the STEM Academy who are learning in closets, so, this is challenging. It's not right.
I was just wondering, and this I don't know if it's there's an answer immediately available, but with the renovations to the school, will there be improved ventilation to areas like that? All right, hope so. Yeah.
I believe that we're going to be using that space right away, as soon as it's ready. So that will help.
Let's start with our class president.
So I committed to UMass Amherst, and I'm gonna hopefully double major in communications and sociology and minor in education.
I'm committed to UConn. I'm going to be majoring in biological sciences.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Nick, but yeah, I'm committed to Harvard. I plan on doing government as of right now, but I'm considering checking out maybe math or some more broader social studies type stuff. Whatever I find cool there, who knows? Yeah. No, I think you have to declare your sophomore year, so I'll just use my freshman year. But I do see myself leaning towards government, maybe a minor in something else, if it seems cool enough. Harvard.
Harvard.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. While we're on this topic, Nick, do you have any plans for applying to college?
I've been looking into it. I've been looking into a few schools, so I have Cornell and Brown are definitely on my list. So I would like those 2 Ivy Leagues, and then I have a few like other top schools like UMass, not UMass, Boston University. Those are like my top 3 schools right now. Hopefully.
Don't forget to look at BC. It's a really good school, I've heard. So you would look at that one too.
Okay.
I also heard UMass Lowell is a good school too.
Uh, I wonder if I could ask the seniors a question, and maybe even the juniors too, but in your experience at Lowell High, were you able to take electives that you wanted to take, or did you find that you were very limited? I think we're looking at the scheduling requirements and trying to open that up. So if you want to just go down and tell me if there were electives you really wanted to take that you couldn't, or electives you got to take.
Me personally, I did run into like an issue my junior year with scheduling, and that was like during COVID and stuff, so things might have been like crazy. Where I wasn't able to take an AP Psych class because I had to take Latin. Well, I didn't have to, but I really felt the need to. So then I had to make some substitutions, but that was just like one small case, and I ended up taking DE Psych this year. So that wasn't necessarily a big issue. Other than that, I felt pretty happy with my electives. I didn't choose theater this year. I was just thrown into it because I had an open spot in my schedule, but I ended up liking it a lot. So I never really had any problems with electives.
So all 3 of us are in the Lyceum. So I think we have our graduation requirements that LHS requires, and then we also have Lyceum requirements. So I would say we were like a tad bit more restricted, but I still do get like my fair choice of electives that I want. I think my sophomore year I took my first elective, and then my junior year I got to take 2, and then this year I got to take 3. So I think kind of as we went on, we got like more of options as like your graduation requirements would fade out.
I agree with what Miriam said. Because we're in Lyceum, we were a little bit more restricted than any other senior. Like I know a lot of seniors that are taking a bunch of like random classes this year, but we still have like our requirements that we're taking. So it was kind of hard to be able to choose every single class that we wanted to take, but it wasn't, I'm not mad with what I ended up with. Like I still enjoy a lot of my classes this year, so it wasn't too bad.
I'm not in the Lyceum, but I have, though, a lot of, like, open classes. I had to, for, like, next year, though, I want to major when I go to college in environmental studies. So one of the classes I really wanted to take was dual enrollment chemistry, but that's a 2-period class. So I had to, like, kind of cut back down on some of the classes that I wanted to take to really focus on the classes that I needed to take. So for, like, this year, I definitely had, like, the free ability to, like, take the electives that I want. And, like, next year, somewhat too, but like not as free.
And I just thought of another question, which I'd love you to hear Ms. Desmond's answer to. I think as we're looking at what the requirements are from the state in terms of, you know, core curriculum and giving our students opportunities to engage in electives that interest them, we come down to the PE a lot for kids that do after-school sports. Would it be possible to meet those standards by having a contract come in and meet with the teams, a contractor come in, kind of like what the dance program is suggesting with Teen Block, to come in and teach those health standards? Could we have someone come in working with the sports teams to go over the standards that PE required? Is that something you're considering at all?
We're not considering that now because we're not sure that the state even allows sports teams to count towards a PE elective. So we wouldn't want to start investigating something that is just not going to even be considered by the state. So, you know, we're looking at all of the requirements by the state, and then we'll have a pretty thorough presentation for the school committee next month. So.
On the topic of like curricula, this is a question I'm not sure could be answered here, but I was just wondering why is it that A-Push, the class is split into 2 years rather than like 1 year like I see in other schools? Is it like a scheduling thing where we just don't have enough time to cover the curriculum in one period, or because I know we have A-Push 1, you take 1 year, and then we have AP US History. Yeah, sorry, we call it A-Push. AP US History 1 that we take in 1 year, and then AP US History 2 that we take another year. But in other schools, they just have it for like 1 year. Do you know why that happens, or no?
So the AP courses, we're required to meet the AP guidelines. So it may be based on our block schedule and how many minutes are spent in each period for a course.
I think it is that.
Right. So there could be other school systems that have double blocks, and so it's essentially like you're covering the minutes of both 1 and 2 in one school year.
Congratulations on the scholarships, man.
Appreciate it. Congratulations, Miriam and Trisha too. They also did very well. Yeah. So yeah, I think Mr. Lay.
No, I was saying that last night I thought you guys, strike it rich last night with all the scholarship that you guys got.
Huh? Wait, what? Oh yeah, it was really loud.
Congratulations, by the way, to all of you, seniors.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, well said. It's not easy coming on as a student in 1 year and being able to understand the content, no less have confidence to be able to push on it, ask questions, and provide advice. So I want to give special recognition to you. And is anybody a junior? Who's you thinking about? All right. So if you're thinking about moving into, we call that the student senator, right? If you're moving into the student senator seat, I think you got a couple of good clips to look at to see what the responsibilities are there. So good job, Chris. Congratulations to all senior. I'm looking forward to giving you your diplomas here pretty soon. It's an exciting time. And because it's so exciting, if you guys do really well with this school committee meeting tonight, if you can do well tomorrow and the next day, I'll give you the next 2 days off. All right.
So in 4 years, I hope you guys come back here, and we probably grow old, so say hi to us, okay?
I would just like to ask if you had any piece of advice for us in our roles and what we could do for the school system, what would you say to us?
Definitely keep on pushing for more student voices and representation. I remember there was a motion once that talked about creating focus groups for students to talk about funding and sort of explaining that and how that can, and like gaining student opinions on funding. Mm-hmm. Going into this position, I really did not understand anything, and I still barely understand anything. I think if we like sort of educate the student body on how funding works from the state, what grants are, and how it's geared towards them, and then listen to their opinions on how it should be spent on themselves, because that's where a lot of the money goes. It goes towards the students. That would just be an overall benefit for the school committee and everyone in the school system.
Excellent, thank you.
Also, which you guys have done a very good job of, I think that if we kind of, if we amplify listening to voices, especially student voices, kind of what Chris was saying, it'll give you a little bit more insight, and it might bring up topics that you guys didn't know existed, such as like the water situation that happened. Like you guys didn't know that had happened until we brought it up. So it's just kind of stuff like that. So I think if we amplify student voices, that could be very, very beneficial to both us and you guys.
Thank you.
I kind of disagree with what both of them said. I think it's best when you hear it from when you hear what we feel through us. So if I feel like we need to emphasize more that students can come to us, or even you guys, or Mr. Thornton, because he has an office in the school. They can all just come to him or come to one of us, so we can at least talk to you guys about it if they can't come to you directly.
So that I wonder, are you suggesting that we should hold one of our meetings at the high school? That way you guys can come?
Go ahead if you'd
I'm
like.
just asking.
I mean, I'm not like denying. Yeah,
On
go
the
ahead.
third floor.
I'm not sure how many people would be willing to show up, but I mean, yeah, if it's like catered towards students and not student led, but yeah, it's centered around like student life and such. And absolutely, yeah.
I think that anybody who is passionate enough about their issue or their idea would probably show up. So I think that it'd be a good idea to try to look into that and see if you could host one at the high school.
Oh, whoops. One thing I really like seeing is like occasionally during meetings we'd have students from like the middle school come in and talk, or like how recently we had like Kylie come in and show her presentation of her 3D printing plastic water bottle science thing. Like that's really cool, seeing like sort of administrative appreciation of student achievements and student initiatives, and that's what we see through middle schoolers. And I think I want to see more of that in the high school. Just sort of like promoting that in certain ways that is promoted in the middle school. Sort of like that civic engagement thing that we've been pushing a lot recently, just continuing that and maybe even uplifting it even more.
Thank you. Those are all great things. I appreciate that so much.
I would also say don't underestimate yourselves with how much you understand and how well you're understanding what's in front of you, given where you are as students in high school. I'm the superintendent of schools right now. I didn't know as a senior in high school, anybody who was on the school committee, I didn't even know where they met. I think you can probably look across to the elected officials who now serve as school committee members and ask them what their involvement was with elected office. So sometimes it feels like, Ms. Doherty, how long have you been on the committee? 15 years. 20 years working in schools. So sometimes it feels like maybe you're not understanding or grasping it. I'm telling you, you understand it far better than I did when I was in your place as students. So never underestimate yourselves. You are head and shoulders, all of you, beyond where I was in high school, which makes me quite proud to say you're going to be head and shoulders beyond where I am right now when you reach the ripe old age that gives you gray in your hair like I am right now. You're doing incredible work. You have an incredible understanding of it. Give yourselves 15 years in the school committee, and I can only imagine what you're going to be doing. Give yourselves 20 years working in public education. I can only imagine what you'll accomplish, and we're going to be better as a society with all of you in leadership roles in the future.
Yeah, thank you to the other class officers. You guys are very uplifting sometimes. Yeah, you guys can be very uplifting. Like, yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right. I enjoy selfies at graduation, so make sure you catch up with me. Those all go right on your mantle. You blow them up into 24 by 36. They go on your mantle right over the fireplace.
Or as a dartboard.
So yeah, I think that just about wraps it up, unless there's any final comments. Motion to adjourn. Any seconds? Any seconds? Any seconds? Second.
I second that.
Aye.
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 Congratulations. It's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing what's ahead for all of you.